Hej fina du och varmt välkommen tillbaka. Mitt namn är Jonna Stark och idag fortsätter vi vårt magiska samtal med självaste Gary Craig, grundaren av EFT-Tapping. Och i den här andra delen så kommer vi att prata om Optimal EFT, den andliga inriktningen i EFT som Gary arbetar med idag. Och vi kommer att prata om vad the unseen therapist är för någonting och hur man kan använda den för att få djupare läkning. Och också hur man kan komma i kontakt med den här delen inom oss själva som rymmer villkorslös kärlek, frid och helande. Gary delar också personligt om sitt eget uppvaknande, hur han återhämtade sig från en stroke som han hade förra året. Så som vanligt när du lyssnar, ta till det som resonerar med dig och låt resten vara. Så det är dags. Låt oss ta några djupa, härliga andetag och kliva in djupare i Emotional Freedom Techniques med Gary Craig. So tell me more about Optimal EFT. How did that start?
Well, as I told you earlier, I wanted to involve the spiritual aspect because of my spiritual experience early on when I first brought it out in 1995. But people weren't ready for it. I told you that.
Yeah.
Then 2014 came along, and I thought, well, I'll start asking people again. And I did. And they said, oh, yeah? Oh, tell me more. They were open. They were like sponges. Not everybody, but a lot of people. There was a clear shift in people's awareness of this kind of thing, and they were eager and ready for it. So I developed Optimal EFT alongside of EFT tapping. Optimal EFT is spiritually oriented. It uses a lot of the same techniques as tapping, except we don't tap. The techniques in tapping that we teach in tapping will teach you how to find the core issues and the emotional stuff, and then you tap on it. But the optimal EFT, I had to have a name for God, because we're dealing with God. But not everybody lines up with God. Some people line up with Allah and so on and so forth. Different religions have different entities.
Yeah,
And
I thought that was really good when I read your book, The Unseen Therapist. That was very good that you said that you can call it whatever you want.
well, I'll share screen again and
Yeah.
I'll show you something. Okay, free stuff again. Same place. Scroll down. Go standard EFT tapping tutorial. The Unseen Therapist. It's free. Okay, that's my introductory ebook about the unseen therapist. We call God unseen therapist. I'll click on this for a minute. And so there's a whole table of contents, and you click on any one of these links, and it'll take you to the next chapter and the next article on it. But it's all free. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, amazing.
So we couldn't. It's an intro book. It doesn't give you everything because I can't make a big book give you everything there. But it anyway. Back to the point where I couldn't say God, or in America, I couldn't even say Jesus or Holy Spirit because America is largely Christian, because not everybody would like that. Not everybody even has a religion. So I just call it unseen therapist to represent the ultimate essence of every religion: peace, love, caring, and so on. It's the ultimate healer is that form of love that I felt during my spiritual experience, that people feel during near-death experiences, and you've probably, and your audience probably knows or senses there's something within you. Your body is one thing, but there's a you in there someplace. There's a higher power. There's a sense of you haven't gotten a hold of yet. And optimal EFT is designed to get you in touch with that and use that instead of tapping for healing purposes. And once you get used to it, and it takes a while to get used to it. Once you get used to it, it is more powerful than physical tapping.
Yeah, amazing. Would you say it's like the opposite of your ego, kind of, or?
Well, that's a way to put it, actually, the opposite of the ego. The ego, in my definition, is your sense of separate. I look at you on this computer screen and I see you, and you look like a separate body to me. And I look at myself, I'm a separate body from you. And so we all appear separate. And look behind me at all that stuff all appears separate. But in that spiritual experience, it was all one. I cannot, you have to experience it to understand it, but it's all one. It's all very loving. There is no conflict with anything or anybody. Everybody is the same, and it's all love, and it's an exchange of bliss. And I didn't want to come back. I remember when I was in the experience, I'm not coming back, but I came back anyway. But trying to get back ever since, and once in a while I get a little glimpse of it. But I'm still working on getting back.
How would you recommend someone starting that want to get in touch with the dancing therapist?
Well, first of all, read my book,
Yeah.
um, because that's the intro book, and also I have a very elaborate um, training that I call it our near free advanced training. It's everything to do with EFT tapping and everything to do with unseen therapist, optimal EFT, and that everything in there. Uh, it's I could probably charge five or $10,000 for it, but it's $100. All I want is enough money to pay my website bills, So, in fact, I'll show you that. I'll show you that for a second. Share
Yes.
screen again.
Yes, I'm inside your membership and I fully agree. You can take a lot more money for it. It's really
Yeah.
good.
So here's my homepage.
And I really love that you
Okay.
have videos of you with real people showing it as well.
Yeah. Here's our training options. And there's some live classes you can take, and they cost more money. But this one right here is the one everybody needs to take, near free advanced online training. And it shows you here everything involved for $100. And it's a 30-day money back guarantee. But it talks all about official EFT tapping. And all these things are in it, as you can see. I'll give you an example. There's 11 what we call borrowing benefits videos. I'll tap on that. And here's all these borrowing benefits videos. It tells you more about it and so on. But anything, all this stuff about EFT tapping, and then a whole bunch more on optimal EFT. There's the intro ebook again. But there's 30 advanced lessons, 64 self-help sessions, live sessions with me and other people with very complicated issues. The shift method, which is a shortcut method, 170 recorded webinar, a whole bunch of stuff. So if anybody's interested, a serious student can't turn that down. Because anyway, that's my
Yeah.
commercial for the day.
Yeah, that's really good. I really recommend it too. And I started thinking about the video I saw there a couple of days ago. You were doing optimal EFT with a woman, and you were talking about how the things we are annoyed with at others is something in ourselves. And
Yeah.
when I saw it, it was then I really felt my ego kick in and like screaming, like, no, that doesn't apply to your husband, because she was talking about her husband, that she
Yeah.
was annoyed with him and like really noticing that thought and then remembering that the next time I was annoyed with him, it was him being late to pick up our kids from daycare. And then I started thinking about what you said in the video, and I was like, what can it be in me? And then it was so obvious that I'm really ashamed to say it, that I'm late, always late to pick up the kids. And I have never thought about that when I'm annoyed at him for being late. It's so
Yeah.
strange that some stuff are so. obvious.
Yeah, among the things that you will learn as you get more and more into optimal EFT is stuff like that. It is not apparent to anybody. You resent somebody because they did something, stole something from you, or they gossiped about you, or caused you harm or injury in some way, and you think it's a bad person and bad, bad, bad. That's what you think, and that's it appears quite obvious to you. That person is bad. Oh, this one over here is good. I like this person, but not that one, or this one or this one. Um, if you really look at it, it takes a while to get there. You've gotten there, but I'm talking to your audience. If you really look at it, you are not really resentful or angry about that particular person. That particular person is doing something or has done something that you did yourself, not maybe not exactly that, but something like that. And you don't like yourself about it, so you're projecting it out on them. That happens all the time. We're forever project. We don't want to look inside about, oh, I'm a bad person or something. We want to put it out on other people and put it out on the world. Put it on politicians. Well, any one of a number of things. But we're doing that, and if once we recognize that all of that is our own projection, it's all happening inside. It's an inside job. Then we can really clean house and get peace inside and get more and more and more of it. And I'll give an example. A year ago, 14 months ago, I had a stroke. At age 84, I'm 85 now. Age 84, I had a stroke, and I wasn't expected to have much of a recovery. I was expected to lose the right side of my body. I wasn't expected to be able to speak so people could hear me. Uh, if I could walk, I had to walk with a walker and all that stuff. Okay. And I got to thinking about that. What was I doing? How did I cause the stroke? That's an important question. How did I cause the stroke? Not something outside of me, not something I ate, not something. Uh, come to find out, as I thought about it, I was developing our new website, our Palace of Possibilities, which you've seen there a couple times. Um, and in developing that, things don't always go just like you'd like them to. It just doesn't work that way, you know. So there's always this problem, that problem, and I would be angry inside. I would try to tell myself, "Oh, that's just something I overcome." But I was angrier inside, and I was trying to look at what am I, what did I put out there that was really my own inside job and caused a stroke. And it was all the, I have to be perfect. I have to live up to my adoring mother. I have to this, I have to that, I have to something else, this or that. And I was all projecting that. And then comes the stroke. And thank goodness I had lots of people help me surrogately. Um, and I recovered really well. I run on the beach. I don't need a walker. I can speak reasonably well, and continue to get better. But that was a very important thing. What did I do to cause my ailment? What emotions did I choose to have about the outside world and the website and everything else? What emotions did I choose to have that I haven't resolved yet? And there we go. Here we are. And so that's the story. I recovered. I was supposed to go to a rehab center for 6 months, and maybe I would be able to hopefully take care of myself. But I was out of there in 6 weeks running on the beach. So it gives you an example of what can happen.
Amazing. For listeners who don't understand, you were mentioning the surrogate. You got help through surrogate.
Oh, yeah, sure. This is another thing that we tend not to see. people hear about this. It's if I'm doing surrogate work, let's say you have a headache, for example, okay, and you're my client and you're several thousand miles away from me, okay.
Yeah.
I can do EFT on myself in your behalf, and in most cases, reduce or fix totally your headache. Now, how can I do that? For tapping, for example, I could tap on myself as though I'm you, even though I have this headache, and tap, 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 tap. Um, I can do that, and you get a better headache. Or I could engage unseen therapists for your headache. But that kind of thing cannot be done. This is really important, really very, very important. Uh, that cannot be done unless we are somehow connected. We're part of a oneness. It's not apparent to us. There aren't any wires between us. It's sort of a cosmic Wi-Fi, if you will. But we have to be connected, or it couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. And we have all kinds of examples of that where people are helping other people. Sometimes they help people who are in a coma and don't even know they're doing it for them. And oh God, I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
I was on a webinar, and one of the people in the webinar was asking me what I do, unseen therapist, for her son. And she was in Brazil, and she had a smartphone. That's how she was on video, and she turned the smartphone to her son, and her son was laying there like that, sound asleep. And it had been that way for days. He had a special fever going around Brazil at that time, which was terminal in many cases, really, really, really bad fever. So what I did was I asked the whole audience to join me in engaging the unseen therapist in this young 5-year-old boy's behalf who was sound asleep. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And I was starting to narrate how people might engage the unseen therapist and all of that. And halfway through my narration, the little boy wakes up and starts crying. And I thought to myself, well, what they doing that for? He's screwing up my method, you know. But in fact, we as a group did surrogate EFT, unseen therapist, for that boy. He woke up and the fever was all gone. So we get lots of stuff like that. It takes a while. You don't get it right away. You don't read a few bullet points and oh, I got it. It takes some serious thought and practice and so on. But it's doable. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yeah, amazing. You sometimes describe it as the staircase of miracles, right?
The stairway to miracles. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain a bit about it?
Well, it's just a metaphor. I have a picture of it. I've made a picture of it, and it's the picture's a bunch of clouds up in the sky, and there's a stairway going up into up and through the clouds, and at the very top of the staircase is a picture of the unseen therapist, which is a lady. You can see her peaceful eyes closed and a very gentle face and a loving presence. So you go stairway to miracles, and the unseen therapist does what we call miracles, but actually the unseen therapist is within everybody. You will see that more as you get into it, but the unseen therapist is within you. There's a spiritual power within you, which we're calling the unseen therapist. It's a spiritual healer within. But we are far, far, far more powerful than we think.
Yeah, I really agree. But how would you start to get in contact? Do you have like a small exercise you can do just to get started to get in touch with the
Yeah,
unseen
yeah,
therapist?
it's called the personal peace procedure. It takes practice, but I will state basically how it goes. Uh, we will start with a specific event in one's life, hopefully further back you go, the better, because the more foundational it is. So a specific event, let's say the specific event is a mother belittling her child, and you're the child. The mother, oh, you'll never amount to anything, that kind of stuff, you know. So
Yeah.
the mother says that to the child. I say a specific event, and at that time you have an emotion about it, and as you recall it now, you have an emotion about it. You're angry about that. You had to carry that around all this time, or you're humiliated, or whatever your emotion is. So you zero in on that specific event and that emotion, and you give it a number from 0 to 10. As I think about it now, I can still feel my heart pounding, and that's an 8, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, you got an 8. Okay, then take a deep breath. You get quiet. You try to get quiet at least, okay? uh, and you think of what's called a loving moment. A simple little loving moment in your life. Maybe you're petting your dog, or uh, a baby gives you a kiss, or something else. A loving, a simple little loving moment. That's just to inform the unseen therapist within you that you're at least trying to get to a loving state, okay? You
Yeah.
may or may not get there, but you're at least trying, and that's all that's necessary. So you do that for a couple of moments, and you let go of that. And then you hand this specific event over to the unseen therapist. Now, we usually do that with a metaphor. Unseen therapist doesn't need a metaphor, but we do. So we use a metaphor. And I use lots of different metaphors. I'll just tell you one. I call it an unwanted vibration in your body. That's what that emotion is. Around your heart, let's say, an unwanted vibration in your heart. That doesn't mean you have to create a vibration in your heart. You're just imagining it. It's a metaphor. And what you do is, in the metaphor, you allow unseen therapist to see it, okay? And then you imagine her blowing a cooling, healing breeze towards the heart, okay? And then in your own imagination, the heartbeat, instead of going ba 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 ba, go da 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 da. You do that 2 or 3 times, and then open your eyes, and then you go back to the specific event that was an 8, and you go back and revisit it and talk about it and everything else to test it. And chances are it's a 2, a 1, a 0. It's way, 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 way down. Many times a 0. But it takes practice to do what I just said. But that's the essence of it.
Yeah. And you recommend people using tapping in the beginning just to get more calm, or
I don't.
no? No.
But if people think they need it, they can.
Okay.
You can if you're brand new at EFT, you can you can learn either EFT tapping or unseen therapist. Either they're both standalone. They have some things in common, but they're both standalone techniques. So if you're more spiritually oriented and you want to visit with God more than you do, go the unseen therapist route. You can do either one or both all you want.
Oh, that's good. How come you named it Optimal EFT? I have a theory,
Well,
but
give me your theory.
that it's also emotional freedom techniques.
Well, yeah, optimal EFT. The EFT
Mhm.
part of it is emotional freedom techniques. Yes, the optimal part of it. I was thinking of what am I going to call all this? Unseen therapist EFT is a mouthful and doesn't make much sense. So I was talking to my head trainer, Sherry Baker, and she suggested, well, optimal EFT, that's the ultimate, that is beyond EFT tapping. Optimal, it's what else do you need other than
Mm.
optimal? And I don't think you need any of these other things. There's lots of good spiritual methods out there. I don't think, my opinion, I don't think you need any of them if you start to learn the unseen therapist is within you, and you start engaging her, you will get more and more stuff from her, and you'll have conversation with her and everything else. And it's the ultimate, it's the optimal, if you will.
I really liked it because optimal, it means the same in Swedish as well.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Perfect. Would you say that it's kind of a meditation, or do you feel like it's much, much more than meditation?
Well, the personal priest procedure, which I spent a little time on recently with you, it's a sort of meditation. Yeah, you're doing all this. It's a metaphor. It's kind of a guided thing. This is how it should be. You don't have to use this vibrating thing in your heart. You can use a throbbing red ball in front of you if you want. You can use a volcano. You can use a lake filled with love, and you can do all kinds of different things with it. You don't get stuck with one metaphor. You use your own metaphor if you want.
Yeah. Is it better to use your own metaphor when you're imagining it?
Uh, well, if you like the metaphors you put forward, use them. But if you like, when you like better, use that. The thing about that is just you use a metaphor that you're comfortable with. That's all.
It's really good. Can you tell me some examples you've seen in transformations for people with optimal EFT? If you have one more example, so interesting to hear.
I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Let me see. Free stuff. We'll go back to free stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of articles that are also free, but one of them is called here, the second one, Impossible Healings. I'll click on that. All right. And here are things that cannot be explained any other way other than unseen therapists. I'll click on one here. Rita Lee has impossible vision recovery. Okay. Here she talks about her vision recovery. And in this case, there's a video as well where she talks about it. She went from 380R and 380L to 2020 in one session. Now, I'm not putting that out. Everybody gets that. I don't want to advertise it that way, but that's the kind of thing that's possible here. And you can read all about that there. But I'll tell you one that's really interesting to me is the second one here. Possible avoidance of a C-section. And you can go through all these you want and see them all. And I'll stop the share now, but the C-section, Nami Osakabe is one of our members, and she had two young children, boys, she had given birth to, and she was about to give birth to a third child. And she already had a C-section once. Baby couldn't get born vaginally and had to open up the stomach and pull it out that way. And she didn't want that. She didn't. The doctor said, well, the baby is so situated, we're going to need to do that. We're going to need to do that. I don't want that. Doctors and nurses say, well, we got to do that. She's lying there on the table, ready to give birth. And so she's got quiet. She's very good at this. She's very experienced. She got quiet and asked unseen therapist, what do I do? What do I do? And the message came, and by the way, I'll emphasize, she's good at this communication. The unseen therapist said, get on all fours. So she did. Doctor, what are you doing? What are you doing? Nurses, what are you doing? What are you doing? Got on all fours. I got on all fours, and the baby just came flying out. No C-section. Had to go to all fours. Well, how do you explain that? We got all kinds of stuff like that in those 30 impossible healing. So
amazing. How long does it usually take to get such results?
that it really varies. In some cases, immediate. I mean, it depends on what result you're looking for. If you're looking for no longer having a certain disease, all the symptoms going away. Usually that doesn't take one session. Usually there's a lot of specific events and memories and things like that that have negative emotions that are connected to it. And you've got to undo those one by one. But the other answer to the question is if you're doing it properly and you're dividing it down into these specific events, things that last a few seconds, as you got hit or an anger spike or thing, a specific event where something happens, and you deal with that properly, that specific event, properly done, will likely go from 8 or 10 or whatever it is to begin with, down to 0 or close to it in one session. That is a minute or something like that. That doesn't take care of the bigger picture disease, but that takes care of that one contribution to it. Then you do another. It doesn't take very long. Then you do another. It doesn't take very long. Oftentimes we find with a specific event, there are aspects, and that's important to understand what they are. For example, the example I gave before, the mother said to someone, "You'll never amount to anything," kind of thing. Once that gets resolved, an aspect might show up. An example of that might be also in that specific event, the father was there looking on and he didn't say anything and should have, and she's angry about that.
Yeah.
So now her anger shifts from mother to father. That's an aspect. It's another piece of it. Being thorough with EFT is very important, whether you're tapping or using unseen therapists. Being thorough is very important, and understanding aspects which are discussed in both Gold Standard Tutorial and the free EFT book. Being
Yeah.
cognizant and knowing how to handle aspects becomes one of the real major skills in doing this correctly.
That's really fascinating. Do you think everyone can use Optimal EFT?
Yeah, I'm looking for serious students. A lot of people are not serious students. That's not bad. That's just up to the person. Do they only want to get to superficial stuff or shortcut stuff? And that's fine. Do what you want to do. But I'm looking for serious students, and anybody can do this. You have to read and practice what we're writing for you. Um, but you don't have to have a medical degree or a psychology degree or any other fancy degree, college or otherwise. You don't have to have any of that. You have to have a desire to learn. I remember when I first met Dr. Roger Callahan, who introduced me to, he was the first one to get involved with tapping.
Yeah.
I said, Roger, I don't have any background. I'm an engineer from Stanford. I don't have any psychology background or medical background. None of that. If a doctor and I were to have some conversation about this, I would be lost after 1 minute in the conversation. Nothing. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He says, "Oh, good, because you have less to unlearn."
Yeah.
Ah, very interesting.
Do you think it was the engineer in you that wanted to solve the problem with creating EFT so more people could use it?
Uh, well, where that came into place is with Roger Callahan, my first exposure to all this. He's a psychologist, a PhD in psychology. Uh, he's not a scientist. I am a scientist engineer, not a psychologist. So we had interesting conversations. He would try to say things technically and scientifically about the tapping thing, and I was going, "Oh God, that is nowhere close scientifically, not even close. You get rid of that one, please." He didn't listen. And I would give him my psychology thoughts, and he'd go, "Oh, God." So you can imagine we had some interesting conversations, okay?
Yeah.
But the engineering part of it, I started to look at what he was doing, and he was making it far more complicated than needed to be. Way more complicated. A bunch of terms that were supposed to be scientific terms, which really weren't on, and so on and so forth. So what I did with his knowledge, I all of it right in front of him. I said, Roger, I'm going to take all this apart. That's what an engineer does. Take it all apart and put it back together again with those parts that count, and leave all the other parts off of it. And that's what I did, and that's what became so popular. So that's where the engineering comes in. That plus, you assess your emotional issue on a 0 to 10 scale. I like 0 to 10 because then you can give me a number and I can compare it to another number later on, and that's engineering, numbers to
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, that's a really good tool to have to be able to see your development during
Yeah.
your sessions. It's really amazing.
My final message to everyone, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, is it's my hope that everyone, those people listening in and other people as well all over the world, begin to realize there is a much more to the you think is you. You think you is your body. There's a much more to you than you think. And the more you get involved with unseen therapists, the more you see this body is nothing but a whole series of limits. Imagine a world full of no bodies. If you
Mm.
had no bodies, you wouldn't need anything. You wouldn't need houses. You wouldn't need jobs. You wouldn't need money. You wouldn't need to look good. You wouldn't need any of these things back here on my behind me. You wouldn't need any of those. The chair I'm sitting in, you wouldn't need. My clothes, you wouldn't need. You wouldn't need any of that stuff. You would only be an unlimited soul
Mm.
exchanging bliss with everyone else. That is an optimistic goal, but I
Yeah,
would love to see that happen or at least move towards it.
yeah. Yeah, I always say that everything you need is right inside you.
It is. You don't need your body. You think you need your body. You got to feed your body and you got to get your body sleep and take care of it and exercise it and all that stuff. But the real you is not the body.
Would you say that that is the goal to come to a point where you feel like that doesn't matter, that the body doesn't matter?
That's my personal goal. Remember, I told you I've been there briefly one time.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. Really, thank you for sharing this and keep helping people and sharing your knowledge. And I recommend everyone to go into the website to look into it more.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to give a farewell hug to everybody and to you,
Yes,
and a
good.
farewell kiss to everybody and to right next to your cheeks right there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here. Take
Okay.
care.
All right, thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.